Data binding binds user input to dynamically bound to the domain model of an application or whatever object you use to process input data. So basically, the things that are coming from the clients are kind of bunch of strings, right? And we need to convert those string values into an object, and that is data binding. Okay, so data binding is available pretty much all web application frameworks, whether that is a Rails or Grails or Spring MVC. All those frameworks have concept of data binding in some fashion, because this is needed for the handling your web application logic. Okay, so we talked about binding result as one of the arguments. So assuming data binding occurred, the result of it is going to be captured as a binding result object. So that's the reason it's called the binding result, because that represents result of data binding. Okay, and you can call has errors method of that data binding binding result object, and to see whether there has been in fact any errors or not. Okay, and so it will return true or false. Okay, so let's actually take a look at the binding result Java documentation. So we have binding result here. So let's take a look at the Java documentation. Shift F2, and we should see binding result Java documentation. And here, let's see. So you can add errors, find errors. Yeah, so this is property. Oh, this is find editor, not find errors. Find editor, get model, and raw field, bunch of things. The one that is coming from the one so has errors. This has errors is coming from. Let's see where that has errors is coming from. Oh, it's actually from a validation. It's actually from a validation class. Okay, and it's actually from errors. The errors, the code. And let's see the let's actually take a look at the source here. Has errors is from here. This is the code. Yeah, this is interface error. So okay, so basically binding result should be implementation. Binding result it should, yeah, it actually it is actually the sub interface of errors. Okay, all right, so that's the reason we should be able to call has errors. Okay, so that is okay, so we can check whether there has been any errors or not, and if there has been any errors, then you take appropriate action. In this case, we display the form page again with some error messages. Okay, customization of data binding. So that there are two choices in terms of custom data binding. So most of the data binding we have seen so far is pretty simple one. String will be converted into integer or long. So if you take a look at our sample application, if you take a look at our sample application in the controller, basically the conversion, if you take a look at the account, basically we have big decimal, string, big decimal, date, and things like that, right? Okay, so those are actually automatically handled. The conversion is automatically handled by the Spring framework. But there could be a case that we need to do some kind of customized data binding because there is no built-in the converter. Okay. So there are two options in terms of creating a custom data binder. One option is annotate a handler method with init binder. So this is an example we have already seen in our valid data example, right? So this is preferred and simpler. So this is the only thing that we can actually use. And option two is externalize your configuration by providing custom web binding initializer or something like that, but we'll just kind of focus on init binder annotation. So annotating controller method with init binder allows you to configure web data binding directly within your controller class. So what init binder does is it identifies method that initializes web data binder that will be used to populate command and form object arguments of annotated handler method. So this web data binder is the one that is responsible for data binding, right? So we're gonna actually configure our custom data binder to this guy, okay, just like we did with the validator. Okay, so this is an example. So any method that is annotated with init binder should receive web data binder as an argument. Okay, and again, that's what we have seen in validator, right? So we have received web data binder object, and here we are configuring two custom data binder. Okay, one is what we want to do is we want to convert whatever user has entered as a date and time. So if user has entered date and time, well, actually, the date with this format, y dash month dash mdd. So if user has entered data information like this, okay, we want to convert into a date object so that we can use the data object in our class, right? So that is this guy. So you are going to register your custom editor, so to speak, custom binder, by calling register custom editor method, and this is the target object that you want to convert to, and this is the class object. This is an object that this is basically an object of your custom data binder. So in this case, we are going to convert this format into date object. By the way, this custom date editor is already provided by Spring Framework as a kind of utility library. All right, so all you have to do is just create an object from it and then register to the binder. Okay. Now the second example is that we want to convert some kind of the integer value into pet type. So in this case, we have to create our own binder class called the pet type editor. So in this case, it's going to receive some kind of the string, and then it will generate a pet type object, meaning it will convert whatever input coming from the client into pet type object. Okay, so custom date editor library, that class is already provided in Spring Framework, but this one we have to write one. All right, so let's actually see an example of pet type editor. So it does extends property editor support class. So you have to actually override set as text method. So it's going to receive user input as a text. Okay, and then basically what we do is that we are going to see whether that text is one of the pet type we have. Okay, so we might in fact have some kind of array that has all the pet types strings, and if they match, then we are going to create this pet type object. Okay, and we call the set value. Okay, so basically by calling set value with whatever type of you want, in this case is a pet type, we are converting this text object, string object, into this type object. Okay. Okay, so that is that, and choice number 2 is kind of less frequently used, so I'm gonna just move forward. All right, so we're gonna actually do exercise 4, and exercise 4 is just doing the init binder things. Okay, so let's take a look at the lab documentation. So when you call MVC Form init binder Maven project, okay, we are entering the data in this format, y, and the month and date. And when user has entered the value like this, we want to use our custom the date format that binder to convert it into date object. Okay, and also we are going to actually convert whatever name here typed in, the whatever name that is typed in, we want to use our converter to convert into uppercase. Okay, so name will be converted into uppercase, and then you can see renewal date is set with this guy. Okay, So let's run this guy first, and then we'll take a look at the code. So this is init binder. Yeah, let's stop the application and then run init binder and run as and Java application. Okay, it's deployed. So let's go over here and go to 8080. Okay, so you can see date is already set with this format. Okay, and now I'm gonna say small letter and capital letter or something like that. And then if I submit, you can see the name has been changed to uppercase, and the whatever date format that I have entered in that format is converted into data object, and then data object will be displayed with this format. Okay, so let's take a look at the code. So this is again init binder method annotated with init binder, which means it should receive web data binder object. Okay, so this is exactly the same code that I showed you in the slide. Okay, so again, custom date editor is from Spring Framework. Okay, so let's actually take a look at the that Java documentation. So custom date editor. So yeah, you can see this is actually from Spring Framework. OLG Spring Framework beans property editor, custom date editor, custom date editor. So that's actually from Spring Framework. Okay, so basically we are converting this date format to data object. You can certainly use a different data format here. All right, that should actually work as well. And then we are converting the name to uppercase by using name type editor. So if you take a look at the name type editor here, basically all we do is we get the string and then we just check whether text is null or not. If it is not null, we just call the uppercase and then we call set value. All right, very simple example. All right, so that is what happens underneath. Okay, so that's what we did. So for your own exercise, modify the name type editor so that the name gets displayed in lowercase. Yeah, this should not take more than 3 seconds for your time. Okay. In any case, I'm gonna actually let you to digest this exercise and concept. I'll give you 10 minutes. Okay.